Tonight we have our annual update and review of the school resource program. As you know, we have a long history with the school resource officer program and the Alleghany Sheriff's Department. This year, Chris Fisher continues to provide oversight of the program. Chris had another engagement, was unable to attend tonight. We do have Clinton Phillips, who's stationed at Alleghany High School with us tonight, and Laura Rogers, who we've already met tonight, who is assigned CMS and of course serve all of our divisions. I'm going to turn this over to Phillips.
Mr. Tucker, members of the board. Just highlight a couple of things that we're doing at the high school with the resource program. We had started the Explorers program last year. It's going on pretty famously. We ended up adjusting the meeting time so that way we can actually have more kid engagement instead of having it at a set time later in the evening. Have it right after school. That way the kids can actually catch the activity bus. We've actually gotten more interest in it that way. Another thing that we've done with the high school is we've consulted with the VDOT going over the mess that we call our parking lot outside. Over the summer we're going to actually have it resurfaced, and we've taken video. We've actually had VDOT down there so that way they can take a look at it and give us some better tips on how we can actually plan it again when it comes up. And there was another thing that actually has slipped my mind that I was going to tell you about. And just as a reminder, pretty soon they will start doing the traffic construction out front, so that's going to come as soon as we get a grasp on everything, they start to change it up again for us. So.
Always fun. Moving from that, I want to first of all thank you all, but I also want to give a huge thanks to the principals, Ms. Stanton, Ms. Dew, Ms. Moga, Mr. Ross, Ms. Easton, and also Mr. Vaughn, because I know a lot of times I'm calling them and I'm like, I got some bad news. So I want to thank them publicly because they have been very awesome to work with. And I have to say, I've only been here a year as a school resource officer, but I've reached out to many different agencies throughout Virginia, and I am surprised to find how well we work with our division, as you know, the sheriff's office as well as the school. So I'm very grateful. Speaking of traffic, I have directed traffic a lot. I know a lot of you have seen me, and it has definitely increased. I would say twofold from last year when we started in March directing the traffic every morning. I also want to publicly thank members of the community who have stopped and let off the interstate, because that is our number one priority, is to ensure that that interstate is clear, because the probability of an accident occurring there is the highest. So I thank them. I thank staff members who have stopped in the morning. Even bus drivers have stopped in the morning. Bus drivers are very receptive. They're our next priority. We ensure that they get across very safely, and we start kind of picking and choosing to see what is the safest route. The second thing I want to talk about, something I've worked with this year, is crisis intervention team, which is something we're bringing to the Highlands, which is also going to help the school in times of need when there is a student, staff member, or anybody that we serve as a school division, as y'all serve as a school division, and we serve as school resource officers to assist. We are looking at building a assessment site that will be housed within the hospital. And so instead of going directly to an emergency room, if a person is going under crisis, we can take them there and get them out of that emergency room, because it's going to help a lot. It's going to make them feel more safe and more comfortable, and they can still get their testing and everything needed. The last thing I want to bring to your attention, and after this, of course, opening up to any questions, is restorative justice. I went to a training in November? I think about November, sometime last year, because it was something that Judge Dasher, who is our setting judge at Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, brought to my attention. What it is a form of mediation, where not students, but any person, whether it's offenders, people not getting along, it's a specialized form of mediation. And we do what's called a circle. So I hate to say this, but say, for example, we have a victim and we have a suspect. We have a mediator. It utilizes a lot of active and reflective listening, and I was very, very doubtful in how it was going to work. But I was actually very surprised during the training, using it myself on some of my own issues, as well as helping others, about how effective it was. So starting in September, Judge Dasher is going to court order not only students who are charged with crimes here, but all juveniles throughout the county to go through restorative justice if they fit that criteria. And so it's going to be something that instead of community service or instead of a fine or a fee, that they can go through. And it's really going to help all the parties involved. I've said that was the last, but I do want to make a note. I'm going in November of this year to become a DARE officer, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So I'm very excited to start that. I have a lot of big shoes to fill with Mr. Fisher. Any questions?
I actually have one more thing. The thing I couldn't slip my mind is I had actually talked to Mr. Ross and sent a form up to Mr. Vaughn about a program that I talked with New Kent County actually does this. It's a not necessarily a new rule at school, but it's trying to build more thought about making sure that they have their seatbelts. As of right now with state law, seatbelt wearing is a secondary offense. So that means as police officers, we can't necessarily pull you over for your seatbelt alone. As a way to get the kids to think more about wearing their seatbelts and making sure they have their seatbelts, proposed the thought of making it an actual rule at school to first time is warning, second time is letter home, third time, and this can be done not by myself but anybody who's not seeing they're not wearing their seatbelt can actually talk to that student. Another part of that is this is actually a step further that I wanted to develop was basically distracted driving, cell phone usage. A lot of the school bus drivers, they tell me as they're coming through to the high school that they see as soon as the students leave out, they're in the car and this is what's going on. As of right now, yes, the state law does have against texting and driving, but if you actually read the statute, the way it's set up, if I'm scrolling the pictures on Facebook, that doesn't count. If I'm trying to put in a navigation system to go to Dairy Queen and Clifton Forge, that doesn't count. So there's a lot of things that you still do with your phone that is actually not against the law or anything. So what we're trying to, I wanted to actually propose and talk to everyone about is maybe a hands-free policy while on school property. So that way they're focused on driving. Good thing to maybe start them now and at an earlier time, and that way build that at a later date. Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank y'all for all you do. Y'all are wonderful.
Thank
really
you.
do appreciate
We
it.
have fun.
Thank you.
Ms.
Actually,
Secretary.
I do have a question. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Officer Clinton,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned something about the parking at Alleghany High School. You
Yes,
said there's
ma'am.
some problems with that. What are some issues that you're finding that are the problems?
As of right now, the way the parking lot is set up, as you come into the parking lot, there's actually two entrances to come down towards the school. From those two entrances, they actually meet in almost like an M shape to verge into one that goes down the center. So you have one lane of traffic that is actually trying to go out to the right. Then you have another lane of traffic that's trying to come down through across that lane, and then another one that's trying to go around, and then they merge into each other. One person doesn't want to give, and the other person doesn't want to give. Then we're also having the issue of parents that want to come and pick up their child. They want to be, as soon as they get there, to pick up the kid from school and dart on out there. We're having some issues with those parents actually just wanting to basically stop in the middle of the lane in order to be there for the kids, so they don't have to worry about pulling back out into the traffic. And so we're trying to figure out a better way to actually set up the parking lot, maybe to alleviate that problem. Maybe even set up a lane for the parents, like they have at some of the metro stations in bigger cities. They have what they call as a kiss and ride or something. Basically where they drop the person off and shoot out. It's a separate lane for themselves, so that way they're not staying there. There's been talk about actually setting up the parking lot to a serpentine to where it's only one way in, one way out. So there's a couple different things that VDOT is actually taking a look and seeing. We haven't gotten exactly what they propose yet.
But if you have an emergency vehicle come in, they typically can get in pretty easily.
Yes, ma'am. The emergency vehicles we have we actually come into the very front loop. That's actually separate from where the parking and bus. student pickup is. The buses and everything else is in the main loop.
And you mentioned the hands-free policy that you might be asking us to approve
Yes, ma'am.
eventually. There is a really good video online. I can't remember the title of it. Is that something that you have thought about showing our students about distracted driving and driving with a cell phone?
There's actually, there's a couple videos online. There's actually, not necessarily a course, but it's almost like a little testing type thing to, I know the kids don't want to have another test, but it's actually a fun, interactive type thing for them to actually start thinking about it. There's a couple different ways to go about it, and as soon as I get the time to get everything situated, yes, there's a couple different things I'd like to get involved with.
And if I can add into that, a lot of times court, again going back to court, orders juveniles who have had speeding or some sort of wreck to come back to new licensed people, so the juveniles who are waiting, and they have to come back and they have to do presentations of why they sped, the consequences, as well as reckless driving and other driving offenses. So that has also been beneficial, and I think something too that we would be happy to pull.
Thank you. Good luck with your dinner. Thank you.
Board, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next